Very good evening, friends and comrades. Today, I'm going to discuss a very grave situation of our country, which is directly related to Indian economy. And I'm going to talk about the recent finance minister announcement on public sector banks merger, which is a very alarming indication for the bank employees, especially those who are in the public sector banks. Now, the first question comes, why the government has decided for disinvestment of the profit earning or loss making PSU companies to be handed over to private parties. And since banks, public sector banks especially, cannot be directly be given in the hands of private players, as a first step, the government has decided to merge the public sector banks. The main objective is to give the public sector banks rein in the hands of the corporates so that they can use the banks for their own benefit. Ever since this government has taken over the mandate, and the first ever budget which was presented by the Honorable Finance Minister, who is no more with us today, surprisingly reduced the corporate tax from 30% to 25%. Now, this 5% means a lot, and it's sheerly a damage for the government's balance sheet. And if you understand the balance sheet, then you will get to know, in one side you have your total expenditures, your liabilities, expected expenditure to take place in coming days, and on the other hand you have your earnings. Now, the recent fund transfer of 1,76,051 crore, which the government has taken from the Reserve Bank, which is Reserve Bank's 1 year income. There are two funds of the Reserve Bank. One is surplus fund and one is CRB, which is known as contingency reserve buffer. Now, what is a contingency reserve buffer? Contingency reserve buffer is the reserve fund which is to be used in emergency by the Reserve Bank of India. And what does Reserve Bank do with this reserve fund? What we call CRB. Reserve Bank buys foreign currencies, dollars, golds, so that in case things like petrol or foreign currency or gold is to be bought, that reserve buffer is used on an emergency basis. And apart from that, the surplus fund of Reserve Bank around 52,000 crore, and clubbing these two funds together, the hoping amount of 1,76,051 crore was transferred to the government by the Reserve Bank of India. The government has been attempting and eyeing on this fund for a long time, but Dr. Raghuram Rajan, when he was the governor of the Reserve Bank, did not allow it. Even Dr. Urjit Patel did not allow it, though he was one of the nominated candidate for the Reserve Bank governor by the Modi government. Then Arvind Subramaniam, the CEO, Chief Economic Advisor to the Prime Minister, he also was unwilling and he stepped down. Latest, it was Viral Acharya who also stepped down. And finally, the present governor, who has no categorical degree on economics, has bowed down to the government's order, and this huge amount of fund transfer has taken place. Now let us talk about Reserve Bank. How does Reserve Bank earn money? Reserve Bank earn money mainly in two ways, that is from the interest earning. Reserve Bank gives loan to the government by buying bonds from the government. It gives loan to the government, and when government repays that loan back, it earns from the interest that government is giving back to the RBI. RBI also earns by giving short term loan to the commercial banks for a period of 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and it earns an interest from these commercial banks. Now, why did government need that money? What was the need for taking that fund from the Reserve Bank? It was not that Reserve Bank has never given a single paisa to the government. No, it is not that. Even when there were previous governments, Reserve Bank gave fund to the government in emergency. When there was recession, 40,000 crore was transferred to the government by Reserve Bank in 2009. In 1991, when there was economic reforms headed by Dr. Manmohan Singh, then also Reserve Bank transferred funds to the government of India. But giving a fund of 1,76,051 crore has never taken place, because the government made a mistake in the balance of payment while making the last budget, and the shortfall, the budget deficit was 1,72,000 crore. Now, why is it shortfall? Why is budget deficit? The budget deficit is because the government kept on doing wasteful expenditures one after another, one after another. On foreign borrowing, government made a statue spending 3,000 crore rupees. Can you imagine? 3,000 crore rupees was spent to make a statue. Even if I take the population of India is 140 crore, if each and every Indian are given 1 crore, 140 crore rupees would have spent. But it is 3,000 crore. It's a gross and totally wasteful expenditure, which was made for a statue making, and to attract more people, more tourists to visit that place. They spent another 2 crores to make a dinosaur out there, and we all know that within 1 month of time the dinosaur fell down, and people are saying that the dinosaur died laughing. Then before that you did demonetization. Before that you did wrong implementation of GST, which has massacred the Indian economy. And let me quote Dr. Manmohan Singh, as he was correctly said in the parliament, it was monumental mismanagement, and it really was. Growth rate has come down to even 2%. Now, what is being told to people by the Godi media, that is 5%, 5% is not even a 5%. You need to understand, what is GDP? GDP is no tangible thing that you can touch or eat. GDP, what is this? Gross domestic product. It is an inference. It is an indicator that helps to understand the current economic situation in your country. The projected GDP is not at all what is it is being told. The projected GDP even if it is being said that 5%, but really it is around 2%. Why growth rate is down? Because there is shortfall of cash flow in the market. People do not have money to buy anything rather than buying their basic necessities. Why so? Because government spends so much of money in foul things that it did not spend a single paisa on job creation. When government creates job, when government gives jobs to the youngsters, 1.2 million youths, only then they get to earn some money. And with that money, they buy something. A demand is created in the market to buy something by these people who got a job, whether it is private or the government. And when people have money, affordability to buy something, only then they intend to buy something, and then the demand is created. And when demand is created, so the growth rate, the growth or the manufacturing growth will come in question. When I need to buy a car, only then a car maker would think of buying car. But if I do not have money to eat my bread, then I would certainly not be thinking of buying a car. And likewise, the car maker or the automobile industry would not be thinking of producing car. And we recently know Maruti, stopped 2 days walk in their manufacturing in Manesar and Gurgaon. These two plants were closed for 2 days. Why? Because there was no demand in the market. When there is no growth, no demand in the market, so the demand for credit in the market by the big businessman, the medium businessman are also less. So even if government infuses public sector banks with money to give credits, but the people, if there is no sale in the market, there is no cash flow in the market, the manufacturers, the industrialists, the small, medium businessmen, entrepreneurs would not be going to banks asking for loans as well. So there is a fall of demand of credit in the market as well. Banks are already in risk. They have got 12 lakh crore as NPA. Even if banks are asked to provide more loans to these people, even banks are having a lot of headache, lot of risk that if they provide a fresh loan, who knows, that loan might get NPA. Now the government is planning that let us win over the heart of the small scale businessmen and let's not declare the loan as NPA, which is again a huge mistake. It will create a disaster. It will create a disaster. Now, having said these things, what measures could be taken? Why foreign borrowing is needed? Foreign borrowing is needed. Government takes a foreign borrowing to make what? To make dams, bridges, rail tracks, ports. Government builds all these things for revenue generation. They take money from the foreign banks, IMF, they make all these things they make infrastructure, they spend money on infrastructure, and then government earns revenue from those infrastructure. That comes back as profit to the government, and government pays back the loan it takes from the IMF or the World Bank. But when you spend 3,000 crore for statue building, when you spend 13,000 crore to the Gordi media for one person's promotion to win over election, then it is a disaster, and you are not thinking of providing government jobs to the educated youth to your country. What you are doing, you are reducing the government expenditure, and you are telling that youths should be entrepreneurs and be selling pakoras. But let me tell you, sir, pakora selling is a respectful self employment, but it is not a job. In economics, a job is when you get a fixed salary, when you have a fixed work schedule, when you have a fixed work timing, you have PF, you have ESI, you have other benefits. This is called a job, a systematic payment for skilled laborers or unskilled laborers is job. Pakora selling is a respectful self employment, but it is not a job. Now, this bank merger. This bank merger is not at all a merger of banks or amalgamation of banks, but it is a clear case of merging the balance sheets. The government have decided to merge the balance sheets to accumulate more and more funds, capitalize them, and give it for the benefits of people like Adani, Ambani, and more big industrialists. Now, what would government do with this huge amount it has taken from the RBI? 1,76,000 crore. If government spend this money for infrastructure, for building statues, for building, elephants, for building, uh, you know, own image by giving promotional ads to the media, then I think the day is not very far when people would die in hunger. And this country would see a very bad day. Whatever the government has done till date, many of you must know that Indian currency is the worst performing currency in Asia and in world as well. It is one of the worst performing currencies in Asia and in the world. What more disaster to see? I don't know. I, as a bank employee, as a trade union activist, strongly oppose this bank merger. This is not a policy. Is this a policy to merge the banks to save the Indian economy? This is not, and this certainly cannot be. Just because the Prime Minister made an announcement and created a milieu to make Indian economy a 5 trillion economy, to follow and to obey that diktat, directionless statement, people have jumped to make that into a reality, which is an absurd thing and would never take place. So, comrades, I urge upon all of you to understand the situation, to understand the magnanimity and the gravity of the whole situation, and time has come that we must protest. We must not take this fight against merger as if the merger has taken place and we have started taking the situation of cognizance what would happen aftermath. No, let us fight. Whether we would win or would lose, that is a secondary question. What is most important right now that we stand up, we fight shoulder to shoulder in a proper direction. And if we all are united, I'm sure that we can shake up the government and its dictatorship. Thank you so much. Have a good day.